thank you so much for being patient with us while we got everything ready. We are AMOM. A lot of you know us that, but it is a meeting of minds. So we are so glad that you're all here with us tonight. We've got Community Connections and Peds Plus that are going to be here with us. We are so appreciative of them coming out. And y'all, even though I'm sure you had to take a boat to get here. So we are happy to announce that we are not just a support group and a resource portal now. We are a non-profit organization. So we are going to be able to reach so many more people and do so many more things for our children and our families in our community. And we want to thank all of y'all who have been there with us from the beginning and all of our new faces who we are so excited to see, so excited to get to know and help. We want to give a big shout out to y'all and a big thank you. So,
I'm Kim Keller, and I'm one of the four leaders of AMOM.
And I'm Regina Foster, and I'm one of the four of us. Just curious, because we did have our first interview on the radio this week. I don't know if anyone was able to listen in or hear that, but out of curiosity, did anyone hear?
I heard it advertised, but when
You
I
heard
don't know the word,
advertised?
but it happened after. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're all here without listening, except for me.
So, well, no,
And
I
we
had,
brought you.
I had
Yes.
a phone call from a person who heard it on the radio and called Peds Plus just to get more information.
Awesome, that's what
Awesome.
we want. That's a great outreach. So you're all here without us begging on the radio. That's even better. Yeah, there's a
Miss Kim ended up inviting me.
perfect.
All right, well, yay.
Lovely messenger always works.
I saw that we were validated.
Great.
Great.
That's exciting. And we had a teacher as well referred people here, so that's exciting.
We're so glad
Awesome.
y'all came.
I'm Shannon. I am one of the four gals.
And my name is Allie. We are all here through different journeys. That's one of the great things that keeps these wheels going. Us and y'all have children that are different ages. I'm talking grown to very, very small. And so we are all active parts of making AMOM work, not just us, y'all too. And I think that it's very important that we all remember that. My son was 5 when he was diagnosed, and that is a very late diagnosis to a lot of people.
Mine was 4.
Yes, and so we had therapy before. He was actually diagnosed at Dennis Developmental Center, but we were on a waiting list for a year to actually get in. So we have all different stories. We all have different stories, different struggles, different victories, and we will say
Potty
that.
training?
Yes, so hard, so hard. But that's kind of the reason why we're here, is we want to have a home base for each person to be able to go to for the information that they need, where they need to go to get help, because we know how it feels to come home from a clinic after getting the diagnosis and feeling helpless and lost. We also know how it feels to come home on a Tuesday, waking up that morning and having a great day, and coming home and feeling helpless and lost that day. So we want to be able to band together as a team, not just us, but all of us. So with that being said, we have Nick Lindsay, Courtney Leach, Lori Page, Chelsea Edmond, and Amanda Sacred. All right, and we're going to hand the floor over to them, and we're going to let them tell you everything that the River Valley has to offer with Peds Plus and Community Connections. This is right here, things that we can get our hands on, and we're not going to have to go out of our community to put our kids in and let them enjoy.
And we are live on Facebook, so anyone that's here, you've got friends or family that aren't able to be here, encourage them to like our page. You have to have liked our page, and then they can watch it, share it, and just let's spread the word.
What's it called? The page.
AMOM is
Capital?
Facebook,
Okay.
AMOM,
Okay.
support, SUPPORT. That's how it's listed on Facebook.
Okay.
Each person has an index card and a pen. We want to make sure that every single person's question is answered. So if you have any questions, write them down, and we are going to give them to these guys before they leave and make sure they answer them. We're going to corner them while we have them trapped.
Welcome, Peds Plus.
Thank y'all very much. We're blessed to be here. I'm very appreciative of the invite. I'm a little stopped up right now, so it is, sorry if I sound a little nasally at times, but I'm going to power through it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Pediatrics Plus as a whole, kind of what the company is, what we stand for, where we're at, And then also, then I'm going to touch on some things from a general perspective, how therapists tailor their treatment sessions, develop treatment plans, things of that sort, and then some strategies that we use to help our kiddos at Pediatrics Plus. So just to start things off about our company, so our vision statement is empowering children to conquer their world. And so what that really embodies, what we hope instills in everybody, is that when your kids come to us, we want to give them the tools to succeed, to thrive in their world, not merely just exist, but to thrive. And so that is our main goal every time a child walks in to our doors. And then our core values that each one of us tries to embody every day with patients, with families, with everybody out in the community. These things we take very much to heart. It's compassion, communication, excellence, faith, integrity, respect, and family. And so we use that, and we are very intentional with the way that we help develop each one of our specific needs and areas that need improving in our core values, and we really make intentional efforts to embody these things on a day-to-day basis. And so we have currently 4 locations in Arkansas. So we have our Russellville location, obviously, 4 developmental preschools. So we have our Russellville location, we have Conway, Little Rock, and Sherwood. And then we also have a new location that just opened up and we're treating in Texas. So we've expanded beyond our borders and we're trying to reach as many kiddos as possible. But we're very excited, and there's going to be some pictures following about with some pictures of the specific locations. But in general, the pieces of Pediatrics Plus, our main cornerstones of what we provide are our therapy that we provide for kiddos, the preschool that we have where kiddos can be enrolled and have therapists on site and teaching staff that are well trained in how to deal with any issues that can arise, or really just help the child to succeed in areas where they may struggle. We have a learning and diagnostic center, and then we also have Community Connections, which you'll hear a lot more about later. It's a fantastic resource, and it's great to just get our kids active in things that they get very passionate about and love, and make them feel a part of a big community, and make them feel like they belong, really. And so we have, in each one of our locations, we have gross motor gyms, and so this is going to be kind of my bread and butter. So it's our, it's from a physical therapy standpoint, we're working on our balance, we're working on our coordination, our strength, our motor planning. We're working on making sure that we can navigate certain environments in a safe and appropriate manner to make sure that if they're going to conquer their world, we have to make sure that they can explore their world appropriately. So this is some of our treatment spaces that we, some examples of the treatment spaces that we have to get that accomplished. We also have sensory motor gyms. So a lot of our kiddos, and I'm sure some of y'all have firsthand experience with this, but some of our kids, they require lots of sensory input, lots of lights, lots of sounds. They seek it. And so we have that. We have those areas for those kiddos that just need a place where there's a lot to interact with. And then we also have our kiddos that need a more quiet space, more decreased sensory input, dimmed lights, soft textures, quiet. And so we have different treatment spaces that tailor to each one of those needs, so we can provide highly individualized treatment for each one of our kids based on what they need. Some more of our treatment spaces. And then we also have what we call functional play gyms. And so these places are awesome. So the top right picture and the bottom right picture are actually at our Russellville locations. And so as you can see there, we have, just this morning I was treating a kiddo and we acted out being a cashier, and I was buying produce from them, and we were exchanging money, and I was making it therapeutic. We were doing some step-ups, getting some strengthening and stuff along with the activity, but it just provides a more vibrant space and practice for real-world scenarios. I don't know much about the spaceship being, or who knows, maybe they'll grow up to be an astronaut, but some of the things that we are able to do in there are very functional based, and the kids love it and have a great time in there. And then we also, at some of our locations, we have aquatic therapy for our kiddos that respond well to that. We don't currently have that at our Russellville location, but we do have it at other locations. And then we also have outdoor playgrounds, of course, because kids need outdoor space to play. We take treatments out there a lot of times because if the teachers tell us, Susie Q's having trouble navigating the steps to get up to where the slide is. Okay, so let's go exactly to where she's having trouble. Let's work on that skill. Let's get her to a point where she can play with her peers out there on the playground and really develop some of those social skills and just overall interacting skills that she needs to thrive. And so, kind of an overall picture of what our team consists of. It's a lot of people, and we're proud of that, and we want to instill that in everybody. Our parents, obviously, top of the list. And then we have physical therapists, PTAs, occupational therapists, occupational therapy assistants, speech language therapists. Then we have team leads in different disciplines. We have our administrative staff, our preschool teaching staff, behavior analysts, and behavior technicians. And so with all of those people working in conjunction, it just makes sure that we can provide the best possible treatment and the best possible environment for each one of our kids. And so specifically, as a therapist, my role is to develop treatment plans for all of my patients on my caseload, all of the kiddos that come through that door. And we want to make sure that those goals are functional, that they can take them outside into the environment, not just where we can just get them to do just 10 sit-ups on a mat, but can they, if they're outside and they fall to the ground, can they sit up on their own? Can they translate what we're doing inside of the gym outside of the gym in the real world and really help them engage their environment appropriately? And so in those goals that we set for that child, they typically kind of tell us what our treatment activities are going to be to help us specifically address those goals. And then, like I said before, communication is key, so we always communicate with everybody on that team, and that includes families, all the other therapists and teachers. And something that I really want to hit home is that family involvement. So you guys are the experts of your children. You guys know your children much more than we could ever hope for. What we are is support staff to help give you guys the tools and your patients the tools to better address any needs that need addressing at whatever time that may be. But I just want to hit that home to make sure that you guys know y'all are the experts. We're support staff for you guys. So from a therapy perspective, when it comes to children with autism, there's kind of two generalized ways of thinking about how the brain works. They can either have underconnectivity or overconnectivity. And so that just basically means that the brain has a little bit more difficulty communicating with separate parts of it at the same time. And so it just makes dynamic activities a little bit harder for some of our kiddos. But what we can do as therapists in our treatment sessions, while I'm working on their strength, I can also do some techniques that can help assist bringing that brain connectivity a little bit better, get those connections more refined. And it's all about, I'm going to touch on a little bit, but it's all about word choice. It's about how you're engaging with the child. Because experience-based and highly intentional therapeutic sessions are how we're going to achieve those goals. And so when it comes to experience-based learning, there's 4 strategies that therapists can typically use, that we typically use to help improve their overall learning. So we want to achieve a proper balance of challenge and support. So we obviously, if we're going to see measurable gains in something, it's because we saw a deficit somewhere. So we need to challenge them. We need to make sure that they're appropriately pushed in these areas of deficit to help improve whatever those challenges may be. But we also need to make sure we are supporting them to make sure that we aren't applying unjust or too much challenges upon them. So we got to make sure we balance that appropriately. We slow activities down and treatment sessions down just to allow that processing time a little bit more. Whenever we see a child, we ask them the question. We don't expect an answer immediately. we let the wheels turn for a little bit longer. We let them understand, because it just takes a little bit longer sometimes, and so we let it all sink in before. We don't ever assume they're just not listening, or they're just, we don't ever want to assume that. We just give them time to process through questions and answers. We want to simplify the environment, and so that's going to help keep down distractors or anything like that. And then we adapt our communication strategies with the child. And then we apply these principles to help improve the child's participation in our therapy sessions, and that helps increase the learning that occurs during those sessions as well. And when I say adapting our communication, so we use experience-driven communication words, and so that's going to be more of I, we, us. So it's including me in their world. It's helping them understand that it's not just them. It's us. We're in the world together, and that we're interacting with each other. And so that helps drive home a more experience as opposed to just a simple activity in itself. It really helps make it more of an experience treatment session. And then we also have nonverbal ways of communicating. So we all know some of the facial expressions we can do and our patients can do to express emotions and whatnot. And we develop those things very early on. And so those are ways of communicating that we utilize in our treatment sessions if we notice that those are more effective than just straight verbal communication. So that's things like facial expressions, gestures, our body language, our rhythm of our speaking, our pitch, our tone, things like that. We can always adapt those to better engage with the child that we are treating at that time. And so specifically about the 3 therapies that we do offer at Pediatrics Plus, these are just kind of, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, and there is a lot of crossover between our therapies. But just in general, like physical therapy is going to work on our muscle tone and recruitment of specifically our legs. Not specifically, but we kind of key on that a little bit. But we also work with arms as well. We work on joint integrity. We work on posture and alignment issues. We work on endurance. We work on our coordination, balance, all of those things. Occupational therapy, they're working on fine motor skills, and they're also working on a lot of cognitive tasks, such as attention-based tasks, emotional regulation. So they really help give patients strategies and the tools to help themselves regulate their emotions whenever they do go awry. And then also social engagement, so they do a lot of that. And then they focus a lot on arm, upper extremity use, motor planning and coordination, things like that. And then speech therapy, they're working on their articulation, their language skills, or any other form of communication, nonverbal language skills. And they're also working on cognitive skill building as well. And so there's a lot of crossover here, which is fantastic because we communicate with one another. We make sure that I make sure that the occupational therapist knows exactly what I'm working on in my sessions, so they can also do that. There's a carryover effect that really helps drive home some of the treatment that I'm providing in other treatment sessions. So it's collaboration is key. And so, this isn't up here, but I just wanted to add one more thing, just because I realized as soon as I got here I didn't touch on it. But and I heard somebody else talking about it earlier, but to qualify for therapies of any kind, your kiddo goes through an evaluation by either a PT, an OT, or a speech therapist. And then based on the score of that evaluation, they have to give what's called a standardized test. And based on the score on that standardized test, they either qualify for services or not. And then depending on the scores on that and the evaluating therapists' personal opinion on the deficits that they see, they assign how many therapy minutes they feel like that child should have during the week. But I just wanted to give kind of a brief overview of how you get qualified for those therapy services. But
They would just call you?
yeah, so they can call and set up an appointment. Risha may be able to step in if I misspeak, but yeah, they can call to set up an appointment on their own. What typically it's a referral from a doctor. You can go to your physician, say, I have concerns in these areas, would you mind, or would it be okay, would you recommend a PT, OT, or speech eval, and then get it set up through us or any other company. But yeah, that's typically how that goes. Okay.
At Pediatrics Plus, we help take care of the paperwork side of that.
Right.
So if you did just want to, had a concern, wanted to call the main number at our clinic, we would help facilitate that. We would send a request for a referral to the physician to help get that started for you. Or your friend, well, child checkout, when you just say, hey, we have these concerns, can we get it out? And the doctor can then just fax us a referral straight. So it's pretty easy. Either we can help walk you through it, or the doctors are very well versed on how to get you to us.
That's great. Thank you.
I just did this a week ago. We're not involved with Peds Plus right now, but I called Peds Plus almost exactly a week ago. It was a wonderful experience. They called me back so quickly, and they got all the information right then, and they really have got the ball rolling. So it wasn't I called them, I had to keep calling like you have to do a lot of places. It's I called them, they called me back, and they really wanted to help my son.
Does anybody else have any other questions for me?
What about school-age children? You'll have summer therapies and things for kids in school age.
My son is school age and he goes to Peds Plus after school 4 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, and he gets OT, PT, and speech.
Yep, so we offer all of our therapy services throughout the school year and through the summer. So, yeah, whatever works best for your schedule, we typically have a therapist that can work with you on that time.
They're really, really good
Yeah, we're impressed.
about working around your schedule. It's such an easy process.
We're not actually a commercial for them. Because three of us two of us have children that are attending Peds Plus right now, and we appreciate the communication like you were talking about from the therapist. They become like family to you. They love your child, and I'm always asking, what can we do at home? And they are quick to help you. Like, these are some things we're working on, and you can do this, and it will help your child, even faster if everybody's on the same page, and they are so willing to do that with you, and it's been a really great experience
And they're
for us.
genuine too. It's not a show. It's not an act. Like, they really do care for your children.
Did you have a question?
I had a question. My
Yes.
daughter, she was receiving therapies. I saw that she had behavior,
Mhm.
people there. Well, my daughter, her therapies were dropped because of her behavior. The therapists were not able to work with her.
Mhm.
And I see that, you have people in place that could help with that. See, my daughter, we got that diagnosis real late, 7 years old, so she missed a lot. So, we had struggles with having her therapies. Right now, she's not receiving them because of that, because the therapists weren't able to work with her. I mean, the pediatric specialist, there's something in place for a child like that.
Without knowing the specific circumstance, it'd be hard for me to speak to. But I would say typically we are able to work with children with behavioral issues. But I don't know if Risha, you have any specific.
Price is right. Come on down.
For services, Pediatrics Plus offers outpatient services from birth to 21 years of age. Due to funding differences at 21, they kind of have to switch to a different funding source, so we're not set up to be able to service after 21. What we do help, though, is help with some transitions to other facilities or other services within the community. We will walk you through that. On a behavioral standpoint, we always try. We were going to give it our best shot. There are some behavioral components that we would be outside of the scope of practice for a physical therapist or occupational therapist, but if that is deemed necessary, we will help you find somebody in the community. We will not just cut you off dry and say you're on your own. So we will always give it our best shot, and we will always, I don't know, just wholeheartedly give what we can give, and then we'll help pull in outside sources to help support that where we lack experience in it. if that helps.
She's 14. She's 14.
So,
And sometimes, just speaking from, I'm the mother of a 15-year-old, sometimes you just find the right person that's a good fit. It's like a counselor, or it's like anything else. If there is a connection, they can usually overcome some of those things. There's
Our daughter has, well, she's had different teachers, and that doesn't help because it's not constant. So,
right,
Right.
it
and
changes.
right now she has a teacher, but now she's gonna have somebody else with her because to help with the teacher because of the behavioral issues. And you know, having a, you know, she needs the therapies, but can't find a place that'll help her. Even the therapies from the school district, they're able to help us.
Um,
The first one to go.
what?
The schools,
Yeah.
they pull out the second of anyway.
Yeah. The difference between the therapy and our viewpoint of a child at Pediatrics Plus that will differ from the school is we're going to look at that child from a medical model, and the schools by law have to look at that child from an educational model. So they're two different tracks, you know, so they only have to provide therapy that supports that child in that learning environment of that school. So if that child is, if they may not get as much therapy at school as what we could provide as an outpatient, because we're looking from a medical standpoint. They're only having to provide therapy that supports their learning. And so a lot of children that have a mild physical disability may not even get physical therapy in school because they're able to walk safely or they're able to carry their tray at lunch, but we still know they're a growing body. You know, their long bones are still growing. They're still not a mature skeletal system, so it's going to change. And so we will still target therapies until they reach maturity or until they quit showing progress.
I can just attest to that because my son graduated out of physical therapy and occupational therapy through school because it didn't affect his academic needs. But when your handwriting is so big, you need occupational therapy to bring that down. And we went and we actually got a new diagnosis working through Peds Plus, and it was a processing disorder that as soon as I read that, I mean, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're dealing with. And so we were able to identify something that the school had missed. And because Colin still, gets therapies at school for speech, he actually can do speech 2 additional days with Peds Plus on different days because he needs that speech therapy. He needs the physical therapy. It's not happening at school, but it's happening with Peds Plus. He needs occupational therapy, and it can happen through Peds Plus. So even if the school has graduated you out or you know, said that they no longer can work with your child, there are more avenues for you to get help for your child outside of that
We
school.
got through private, you know, therapists and all that, but even our child has been pediatrics plus, and that was the issue, but you guys were not as big as you are now.
Right.
And I don't know if you had the resources then that you have now.
No, sir.
Oh,
We've been
that's
adding
good.
to them. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, we were kind of landlocked and hand-tied a little bit with we about 3 years ago we had about 7 therapists. Well, now we have 31 therapists, and we've added a whole bunch of different supports in because of that. Learning and Diagnostic Center, we haven't really talked a whole lot about. Nick mentioned it as one of our pieces that we offer. The addition to the Learning and Diagnostic Center has brought us the ability to do a lot of psychoeducational testing, looking at dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and other various learning disabilities that sometimes go unmissed. Or they will target, they have a specific need of a processing disorder that really needs a lot of OT and a lot of sensory input into for that child to stay organized, etc. Very complex issues that now we can kind of pick up on those a little bit more and offer some guidance that 5 years ago we didn't have that ability, you know, so. Suzanne?
Yeah, I just was gonna, touch on what you said about losing services at school and, having behavior issues. My son has a lot of behavior issues. He authorizes therapies at school, and it was actually Peds Plus that helped us deal with the school. They stepped in, and now not only does my son get his services at school, he still gets them at Peds Plus, but he also, if it weren't for Peds Plus, he probably wouldn't have an aide
would just encourage you, don't give up. Keep asking questions, keep looking for answers.
And that's the thing, we pretty much gave up, we're
Yeah.
like, we can't find nobody.
I gave
But
up.
I didn't know about, we saw the building, but we didn't know the resources that you have now. And that's what we're looking for. Our daughter is not she's well, but there's certain things that trigger her. And we don't understand what triggers her, and that's what brings the behavior.
Right.
And, seeing what the behavior specialist that you have at your facility, I would like to, try and see if you'd be able to, help us out there.
Yeah, give us a call. I'd love to sit down and look at your case or talk through, so, go ahead.
I don't know if you remember little Rashawn Franklin,
I do.
but I know y'all, because of y'all got him to where he walked. And since I put him in friendship, he's getting to where he's getting a little communication. So severe influence.
So good.
He'll shake his head to head and
I
no,
love it.
yes and no.
Yes.
I mean, he does all that.
I love it. I love watching them
So,
grow.
I know whenever I was talking to, I don't remember his name. Is this one of the directors? I was trying to talk me into
Oh, it's probably
keeping him
BJ.
in.
Yeah.
But, so, I told him, I remember I told him, I was like, I'm gonna put him in friendship and then we'll see what we get out of it.
It goes back to
And
connections. Maybe
therefore,
there's just a good
I feel
connection.
that, taking them from one place to another, them combined, the two places
Yes.
combined really helped them.
Right.
That's great.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
if you wanted to, we could try different places
Oh,
and
yeah,
see what we
definitely.
got out of it.
We are always, if y'all were to call and ask us, who do we recommend for counseling? We don't. We have a list of who takes, who provides what ages and who takes what kind of funding sources, but our advice is always gonna be call, ask tons of questions, and find the fit for your family, and so. Same thing with therapists, sometimes, and even, you can ask all of these guys, sometimes they just don't jive, the therapist and that patient don't jive and their personalities clash or whatever, and then we try to shift them around to somebody else. It's never, we just really are trying to target what is most important and what that child, that individual needs right now, so,
Thank you for,
yeah.
thank you.
So,
Okay, Courtney?
I think we're done, Nick.
Yeah,
You're done?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Courtney Leach and I'm the Director of Community Connections. I think after that I have the most fun job that there is. But I do kind of want to know a couple things, because in a room this size and talking about how we serve all ages, like a little survey, like who has maybe a child with autism or any other kind of special need that's under the age of 3? Okay, no debate.
Potential.
How about like 4 to 10-year-olds? 4 to 10-year-olds, okay. How about like 11 to 18? Okay, some older. How about 19 and older? Any individuals with autism in here? Okay. All right, yeah, so all of it. That's awesome. I have a 10-year-old who has every symptom of autism. Dennis Developmental Center actually didn't diagnose him with an autism spectrum disorder. He has a chromosome deletion that affects everything that autism does. He has cognitive delays and severe ADHD and a lot of impulsivity and a lot of challenges. And so I kind of came from this. I really had no knowledge of the special needs world. I didn't study at all, and when I had my son, his name is Alex, and he's now 10, it totally catapulted me into the world of families that are raising kids with special needs, and it's been a whirlwind, but it's fun kind of talking about the social, emotional, and behavior side. I live in Conway, and my son did start therapy at Pediatrics Plus from 8 months on. He got OT, PT, and speech, but he had behavior problems, and he got put right into the social emotional classroom. They have specialized classroom for kids, which is amazing because some direct services. He did that for about 9 months and then was able to transition back out into a regular classroom. So now we're navigating public education, 4th grade special ed, and medications. So that's where we're at, and that's kind of the perspective I come from. But how many of you have heard of or know what Community Connections is? I know a few of you. Okay. So not everybody, and I do want to catch your question in a minute. We are a nonprofit organization, so I know what it looks like getting bylaws and paperwork, and so congrats to you guys for that. But our whole mission is to provide quality extracurricular activities for kids with special needs and support for families. I have passed out a flyer. This is what we have going in the spring, but we were started by Pediatrics Plus, but what's a little bit different is we're open to kids wherever they get therapy. We have several kids from Friendship. We have kids that don't get therapy, so we're not exclusive to Pediatrics Plus, but Peds Plus is one of our biggest supporters, and really they believed in making sports and arts and activities in the community available because we believe all children deserve the opportunity to participate and glean the benefits of being on a team and being out in the community. And our name, I was a PR major, so I did not love the name Community Connections. Like, this says nothing about children or sports or arts, but I've kind of come to embrace it because everything we do is out in the community, and we partner with the community because we want our kids out in the community. So, like here in Russellville, we do martial arts at Martial Arts America, where other youth are doing martial arts, and we're in local churches and studios and schools, and so out and about. We do basketball in the fall, so that isn't on the flyer, and we do it at First Baptist Church alongside like Upward. That's where kids are doing it because we want our kids to go to school and say, oh yeah, I was out at the courts or I was out at the field. And so I love to share that to you, that all of our programs are free. And I have this to pass around really quick. If you want information on this, and I'll keep talking about it, this does not really commit you to anything other than we have a weekly email newsletter. We have found that that's been a pretty good communication tool for families because they can file it to read when it's convenient for them. They can forward it to a friend. So do any of you get our weekly newsletter? Okay, awesome, a few. So if not, if you want to put your email down, I'll add you. You can unsubscribe at any time. But once a week, we put information on everything we have going on, but then also things that the community is doing, a children's hospital group is, and I would love to put this AMOM group on because we have several families in the River Valley that I know aren't here that, you know, would maybe want to benefit. So if you want information or to get the newsletter, you can put your info down there. But our activities are free, and they're after school and on weekends, and they kind of vary in age on what they start. I mean, we say 3 to 18 for a lot of our after-school programs. Soccer and art start at age 3. Our Acts Junior Theater program, we have found, works a lot better when you're a little bit older. You know, 7 and up. Are you familiar with Acts Junior?
I'm in it.
Okay, amazing. Yes, love that. My son, Alex, has done Acts Junior, and it's really cool, the progression. Like, he was not interested in being on a stage. I don't know if you're shy or not. However, he was, but he's progressed as the years have gone on. But anyway, programs in the community, and we're trying to add more, you know, kind of where we've started. It was interesting. We've received River Valley United Way funding for 3 years, and then we didn't receive it the last 2 years, and they said that they just weren't sure how much interest there was in the community. So that's like a selfish plug. That's like a political plug to say, you know, we want, you know, to show that we're out there. But kids 3 to 18, after school and on weekends, I've been really disappointed. Art and soccer conflict, and that is totally against our heart and our vision, but we do have volunteer program directors that lead activities, and we're kind of at the mercy of where we're at and who's leading the program. We try not to do that. But right now, art is just about to start up. There are still a few weeks of soccer. We do it at Russellville High School. Amanda Johnson, if anyone knows Amanda, leads that, and so can come out for soccer. And then in the fall, we'll have Acts Junior Art. We plan to do cooking again. We'll have basketball, which is popular, and programs, you know, for your kids. And then our Autism Resource Center, I've always thought maybe we should not call it a center because the center would be my office, which has moved 4 times. I follow cheap rent for a space, but it is where we house our resource library. So we have books and DVDs and materials that are free to check out, and we will mail them. I mean, you're right down the road, and I come to Russellville a lot, but there's a list on our website. So if there is a book or something you would like to read, we have everything from stuff that's helpful when you're newly diagnosed to books for, you know, young adults with Asperger's and autism to read, and everything in between. And then if you have recommendation of books like, hey, I've heard this is a neat one to come out, we will purchase them. We have a budget to do that as well. So books and DVDs, I mean, I feel like who has time to read? I buy lots of books and don't read it, but that's why we have a library so you can check them out free of charge. We also have a resource guide. It is most helpful for probably the newly diagnosed. So if you have friends that are, you know, new on the journey, you know, Autism Speaks has a 100-day kit that's on website, but also on our website we have that guide that you can read, that even for someone who, I mean, I didn't even know what occupational therapy was when, you know, my son was prescribed to go to it, so you can look at the guide. We do a summer camp, and we had a couple of kids from Russellville last year that did it. It's targeted for 9 to 15-year-olds, but it's a day camp in Conway in the summer where they do a lot of things that target social skills and building friendships. I know my son, this will be his first year that he is able to go, but friendships are kind of hard for him. You know, he can get on the nerves of the other kids around. He loves people and he is social, but it is amazing when you see what these preteen and teenagers, you know, the bonds that are formed when they interact or are together. And then our young adults group. So for those that have older kids, you know, we found that it's great, you know, when we do programs for kids, but we've now been around 10 years, and so our kids that started when they were 7 are now 17 and are about to go off and or they've graduated, and so we saw a real need for what we do for our older kids. And it's kind of the idea you can't be all things to all people, and that's terrible. Like, I have so many visions. Like, I want competitive recreational leagues, and then I want more recreational leagues, but deciding where you can put your time. What we're doing right now is we have a young adult social group. So it meets once a month. We say it's for 15 to 25-year-olds. We have a few that are older than 25, but they come from all over Central Arkansas, and we meet in different areas in Central Arkansas. So we try to do Friday nights or Saturdays, but the group, I mean, we have probably as far as Jacksonville and Cabot, and we've had folks from Russellville, Pine Bluff, you know, kind of the area. So they'll meet and we'll go bowling or go to the movies. They've done a day trip to Batesville to a Scottish festival. They've done a Hot Springs day trip, gone to Hog Wild, different activities. And so we have a wonderful director. Her name is Gina Moore. She has a 14-year-old with autism that's leading that. But they have a Facebook page. It's called Community Connections Young Adults Group. And there's also a registration form on our website where you can sign up for information, and they meet once a month. So that would be something I welcome any of you that have older kids or individuals, or if you would like to try it out. It's one of those things, you might not like bowling, but you would love to go see the new Star Wars movie, or you might be interested in going putt-putting and or do a day trip, so you can kind of pick and choose your activities. This month we are doing an ice cream game night, ice cream social and playing games. So there's that. And then a lot of what I do, and I mean what I'm passionate about, you know, because my son is trying to, exactly kind of what AMOM's doing, is connect resources. You know, I do a lot of just meeting with parents one-on-one, trying to refer out what I know. I mean, you know, unfortunately there's a lot of issues with school, so I'm trying to sometimes connect resources that we know on writing a good IEP and rights on advocates and, you know, behavior specialists. I mean, I feel like I'm hitting this new stride of like a hot mess of a 10-year-old. He unplanted my husband's trees in the yard this week that he went and planted. I'm like, what did you do? You want to pull your hair out? And he said, I thought they would look better over there. Oh so, I mean, he is something, but so I feel like I'm right alongside it. But I have loved meeting the families, and my favorite thing, and I mean, I've been with Communications 9 years, so I got involved pretty soon when, I mean, Alex was 2 when he was, you know, diagnosed, and he was getting therapy. And my favorite part is meeting and interacting with the parents. My favorite thing is to go out to soccer and the kids. I love seeing that the kids are having fun, but I have a lot more fun seeing parents sitting on their lawn chairs, getting to visit and connect, because really this support group is rare. There aren't a lot of natural support systems involved, and really parents of a lot of diagnoses need it. We serve about 50% of our kids have an autism diagnosis. I mean, it's just so prevalent. But I just love that natural opportunity to share and see what's working with other families. But we're here, and we're in Russellville. The newsletter, if you want to receive, that's great. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so you can look up Community Connections if you want to follow that. And then our website, oh, I see Risha pulled it up. This is it, so communityconnectionsar.org. It's on these flyers. There's a video of our programs in action, but also, Risha, if you register for programs. If you want to do a program, go to the top if you would, or there. You can click programs, or at the top, they are listed right here. So if you want to do the young adults group, you can click on that. If you're interested in soccer, the dates and the times and locations are all on there. And then our newsletter gives an update. And I will stop talking and open to questions, but one other plug I will give is, so our programs are free and they are out there. We are doing an event in Russellville on April 28th. And part of it is a fundraiser for profit, and that would be if you like to fish. We're we are the recipients of a tournament called Fishing for a Mission. I do not fish, but it's a bass fishing tournament, and so it's I think $110 to register, and they have $5,000 in cash prizes. So for the fisher people in your life, doing it at Lake Dardanelle. But Community Connections on April 28th, which is a Saturday, we're hosting a free kids fishing derby. So for the family to come out, there is no charge for that, and we will have all of the fishing poles and bait and equipment, and then there will be free food. So if you guys would like to bring your family out again, it's just another event where you can meet other families, hang out in a really safe environment. You guys cannot judge my son Alex if he pulls down his pants and like jumps in the pool. I mean, it's just like it'll free for all, you know, swimming instead of fishing, who knows, but that's April 28th, and there's information in our newsletter and on our website about that. So if you'd want to fish, or if you'd want to come out to the derby, we welcome you to that. So that was a lot, and I think I spoke a lot quicker than you, but any questions about Community Connections?
I'm excited about some of the other programs. You know, I think we're all like, oh, we need to find out about that. The four of us have had children that have participated in Acts Junior, and it is an amazing program, and it's hilarious. The kids actually get to help write the script. Like, they have a theme and some guidance. They break up into groups, and then they put on this amazing production. And is it April 17th? Is that right?
Is
April
the final
17th?
play? Yes, I'm so glad you said that.
Come
It's
to the
free
final
and
play.
open to the
Come
public
check
and
it out.
entertaining.
It's awesome.
17th?
17th, yeah.
You got
On
it.
a Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
I think 16th is the last final rehearsal
Yeah.
before the last final rehearsal.
Where's that?
It is at, the Assembly of God Church, the big round church. They have a community building. You go past it to like take H Street, and there's a facility there. It's a large gym.
It'll be on the left.
Yeah,
of the
Russellville Assembly of God Activities
Yeah,
Complex.
go behind the building,
Yeah.
walk in, and you'll
And
find
it's at 6 o'clock, and I always bring my kids, even my 5 and 6-year-old will sit and watch the play and interact. So it's free, and it's a great community. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
making that plug. So that's Acts Junior.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Are you ready to do it?
Yes, I'm so sorry. The very beginning.
Okay, so actually I got several things.
Okay, out with it.
First of all, I know a lot of these moms have children with autism. My question is, okay, I've heard that a lot of kids with autism are like kind of staying backish. And I just wanted to know how many are like, I don't know, like for instance, my kid is autistic and he's really loving. He likes to love on people instead of being so backish.
Well, I mean, you've
So
probably
I don't
heard this
know.
before, but you know they say if you've met a child with autism, you've met a child with autism. Like, they are all different. So while there's that stereotype, I know a lot of kids with autism that are very affectionate and very loving. So yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're interested. You can do a poll with the group. Like, does anybody have a loving kid? See, half the group right here. Look at this loving. Hi, baby. Yeah, that's a good question though. So no, I don't think that's standalone. All kids are different.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
some of them more. I've met some of them. And it's like,
You have to remember that just because your child has autism, that's not the only thing about your child. You have to remember that is a human being first and foremost. So there's going to be
all like or not.
right.
That
There's
was my
going to be
question.
characteristics like all of us sitting up here. We're completely different. We have one thing in common, that brought us together, and that is our children with autism. But we are completely different when it comes to everything else. And so that's something that you need to remember about your child is that yes, what child, boy or girl?
Boy.
What's his name?
Rashawn.
Okay, so Rashawn is a boy and he has autism, but that's just two things about Rashawn that we know. So everything else is just going to be characteristics about Rashawn that makes Rashawn who he is. And so nothing about Rashawn is going to be like Noah or like Colin or like Tanner just because he's a boy with autism. He's going to be exactly who he is no matter what he's diagnosed with.
Okay.
That's really good. I mean, I'm so glad you said that because I remember when we went through Dennis Developmental Center and then Children's Hospital Genetics Departments who ended up diagnosing, but I remember the counselor before we had, he was just an undiagnosed case. Like, we just knew he was developmentally delayed, and knew he was severely ADHD and just struggle, but global developmental delays we were treating. And I remember them saying, like, do you want a diagnosis or do you not want a diagnosis? And every parent's a little bit different. There's not a right or a wrong, and they're just different. I tended to think, like, knowledge is power, and, you know, it was the idea that Alex Leach was the exact same kid the day that, you know, we found a diagnosis as he was the day before and the day after, but knowing something about a diagnosis can help explain, like, oh gosh, I mean, you know, I'm always like, am I just the worst mom ever? Like, why is my kid, you know, not that at all, just that, you know, behaviors and things will be the same, but just like any kids. I mean, I feel like we all have some kind of special needs. Like, I could identify all my own quirks. I mean, it's just, but.
That's my thing. I haven't had my son diagnosed, which since he was 2, we always kind of thought he might have it, but he's, like I said, there's so many, you know, specific things.
Yeah.
And he's never been consistent on what he does. Sometimes he does this, sometimes he does that. You know, he's high functioning, but then he went to friendship, and then at school they diagnosed him at school. So I haven't actually got a diagnosis, but we know he has it.
Absolutely. And you think
But
about, they didn't do diagnosing 20 years ago, and I mean, I identify people all the time. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
I know.
I didn't really want him to be diagnosed
Okay,
because
well.
I didn't want him to have to say that he had autism. I wanted just
The
to be-
thing about getting a diagnosis is you can get therapies
Yeah, that's what
that
everybody's
you
saying. I
couldn't
just-
get otherwise.
It was just kind of like, I just felt like, well, it doesn't really matter. He's getting therapy.
He's the same kid,
You
let him
know,
have
and
the
this is
diagnosis
exactly-
and get that extra help,
Yeah,
is what I
we're
would
just gonna
say.
do the same thing whether he has it or not.
Sure.
But as he gets older, it's more obvious that he does have it.
Yeah.
But I just kind of didn't want to have to say that he has
Yeah.
it. But then again,
I know lots of other families like that too. And there's kids that do community connections and don't have a formal diagnosis. And I guess that's, nobody asked it, but I will say, people say, well, how do you qualify? What do you have to have? We really say whatever a child has going on, mentally or physically, you know, intellectually or developmentally, if it would prevent them from going and participating and thriving in the city league sports program or a school after school program, we want to be a place for them. So we serve a very wide range. I mean, we have everything from kids that are nonverbal and immobile that are in some electric wheelchairs, that's the minority, to high functioning Asperger's, to AB, beautiful, thriving 16-year-olds that have heart defects and or had cancer and now can't play contact sports, and kind of everything in between. And it all depends on who signs up each semester. So it's kind of diverse, but I
And
understand that.
something that I think that a meeting of minds is hoping for is that by educating the population, educating the community, that having a diagnosis of autism won't be a horrible thing. I mean, now we throw around ADHD like it's nothing.
Right.
But when that diagnosis first started getting passed around, there were parents that were like, don't you dare call my kid
Such a
ADHD.
stigma.
And
Such a stigma with
what
it.
we hope to do is that we can teach the community enough about autism that it's like, okay, there's a person with diabetes. These are traits that that person has. These are needs that that person has. There's a person with autism. It's just a facet of that personality, like Allie was saying.
as much as it's out there, I mean, like I said, my son's high functioning, so he seems so normal in most things, but like when we're out in public and he's being really loud, when people are looking at him like, you
It's
know,
hard.
and-
It's hard when when other
I mean,
people
so
stare and you just want to say, walk a mile in my shoes. We have all experienced that.
Yeah,
We have, and it's terrible, and you know that they're judging you. Don't worry about them because your focus is on
Well,
that
I'd
son.
say, I
Your
think people
focus is
even
on your
know
child.
people know so much about autism that they don't really think that people
They don't know
have
anything
autism.
about
You know, they don't
autism,
realize
actually.
that,
They think Rain Man
Yeah.
for autism. I mean,
Yeah.
people have in their minds what they think a person with autism is.
Exactly.
And every parent in this room knows that there are no two kids alike. And you were talking about sometimes there's this behavior, sometimes there's that.
Yeah, not good.
We've all experienced that, like where they start gaining in maybe an academic area, their social skills are gonna go down. And it's like all of that energy is going over here, and it seems like they go forward, they go back, they go forward. But it is an uphill. The big pictures, they're going uphill, but there's a lot of ups and downs in that process.
Right.
And
And
so-
it will be like that forever, for our whole lives and for our children's whole lives. But like you said, we want to be able to talk about autism so much and make everyone around us so comfortable talking about autism. We want our children to be able to talk about autism.
to not be
so-
bullied for
Yes.
autism, but to be a kid with autism.
If he has autism, he's going to have autism. And we want to make sure that everyone, including our children, know that autism is not a disease. It's not a dirty thing to have. It's not a bad thing to have. And you don't catch it. You were either born with it, you did not develop it, it was nothing that you could have done to prevent that. And so there's nothing that you can do to get rid of that. You can thrive with autism. You can reach your full potential with that, just like anyone else can. Just because you have autism does not mean that you're not normal. That's not what that means. You cannot go into a typical classroom sometimes, or you cannot do the typical thing, but there is not a normal day. There is not a normal person. We don't have a standard for that. And so the more, it's so hard at the beginning. It is so hard, and we all know that, and that's the reason why we're all here. It's because we have all felt the exact way that you have felt. We have the exact feeling that you're feeling, we have felt that. But we all have, and maybe we haven't yet, but we have come to the place where we know that the only thing that we are supposed to do now is not worry about anybody else except for the person that we created, making sure we do everything in our power to make sure that they are living the life that they deserve to live. Nothing else matters. Not Joe at the supermarket, and not Cindy that's in, Sunday
The
school.
PTO or anywhere else.
No
I mean,
one
it's
else.
just, it's,
Anyone that stares in Walmart, that's okay, let them stare. If you need to get down on the floor and lay with your child in Walmart, that's what you need to do. You let everybody else walk around and stare and say whatever they need to say. You do what you need to do to make sure your child can get through the day.
don't let their judgment change the way you treat your child.
Exactly. Or what you do for your child.
And I'll say, I mean, you maybe have addressed this too, but this was helpful to me when I heard there's a group called Riley's Warriors. It's a nonprofit that's here in Central Arkansas. It's actually based on Maumelle, but their mission is to spread the love of Christ to families of parents with children with special needs. But it was interesting. The director, her name is Michelle McClanahan. She has a son, Riley. So they're online. You can look too. She had shared at one point, and it was kind of helpful for me. She just talked about realizing that, having a child with any kind of diagnosis or healthcare impairment, that like you may go through grieving processes, and it's so interesting. I can go for 9 months or a long time and not really be worried, and we're handing along and something will hit me and like I feel crushed again. Like because they say you will grieve what we expect, right? I mean, it's just psychology. What we expect a normal would be. We expect our son will learn to ride their bike, or our daughter will learn to drive, or whatever. And a lot of kids do, but just anything that you might expect when you see them challenge, or you see siblings. I don't know how many of you have a child with autism and siblings, and I'm like, gosh, my 6-year-old's about to bypass my 10-year-old in reading, another, just fill in the blank. But knowledge has helped me, because then when the discouragement hits, I can be like, oh, this is secular, and process through, have a minute, but then get up and advocate and believe the best for them again, but realizing it will come and go. But that was helpful to me to know. They say, she grieved when kindergarten started for her son. Right.
That hit me, because before I thought, well, he has time. He's
right.
Friendship, and I thought, he still has time, but when he started school,
Yeah.
and I really started.
And for every one of us, they say comparison is the robber of joy, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm comparing myself to Allie, I'm like, gosh, I want her hair. It's gorgeous, whatever. And we do it with our kids. I mean, no matter if they have autism or not, it's easy to compare and see what they're doing and not, and just realizing, the Lord created your child exactly how it's meant to be. But realizing that you will go through some seasons, but it will get better.
I will post on AMOM. There's a story about going to Holland.
Yeah.
Does anybody
It's
know
good.
that? Okay.
Yeah,
It's a great story, and it talks about having those expectations, and then all of a sudden you're in a different place, not a place you prepared for. Fathers grieve not playing those sports with their child. That happens, and it's okay to feel like that, and you need to know that too. I mean, sometimes I think we even feel guilty for thinking those thoughts, but we were set up expecting one thing, and we just got to find the rule book and all the other things we need to know to go to this other place. But it's a great place. It's a great place to be once you've got that acceptance of it.
It's such a lonely feeling, and it doesn't help you to know, but you are not alone in that feeling, because we have all felt like that.
But we have all had those joys of those milestones. I've said this before. I don't think parents of typically developing children realize some of the small wonders that have happened, like tying shoes. I mean, yay, good job, kid. Or for us, it's like, yes, I'm so proud of you. You've accomplished that. You can do this on your own. You've got that independence.
Putting on his socks.
Yeah. Putting on his socks.
not
It's
there
funny
yet, but
because at first I thought Alexander was just delayed. You know, I thought he was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
delayed and he's going and everything. They're saying, oh, once they start talking, they won't shut up. Just be glad he's not saying it. And I thought, people don't realize
Exactly.
if you have a child who does not talk when they're supposed to.
I told myself
it is
I would never
hard.
tell my son to shut up, and I'll tell you what, I haven't. Never. Because it was such a struggle. Because same thing I've heard people say to their kids. I'm like, I can never tell my child that because he's speaking and he has something to communicate. And whether, you know, it makes sense to me or not at the time, it is important and it does reflect something they need or something that they're proud of. And you have to, you know, I think we're right there jumping in with it.
Honestly, I think, okay, I've been listening to everybody, but like, with every kid, no matter if they have a disability or not, your main focus as a mom should be on that child to figure out, okay, why they're acting the way they, the way they act, if they have fits or not, figure out why they're having the fits, try to figure out, what's wrong. I mean, just by watching them, you can figure that stuff out.
Watching them, and then when you add that into like getting resources like through Community Connections and through that, like through Community Connections, my son has gained a lot of social skills. We've been, I don't know how many years now we've been participating in it, but it has helped him work in a group. It has helped him. I mean, like the last time he did the play, he improvised on stage, and it was just like, yes, and it's like he was picking up on some of the things that we've struggled to pick up on, putting pieces of the puzzle together in a social setting. And so
I think he gets aggravated mostly when he can't get the words out of his mouth he's trying to say.
Like,
He's
I love
it's like
what-
he's trying, but he can't get it out.
I loved what Nick said when he said, we understand that there's a process, and once we had that processing diagnosis, it helped me a lot, because at the same time you're thinking, why aren't you answering me? Why aren't you answering? When your kid tells you whatever to everything, whatever can mean a lot of different things, and that may not mean disrespect, that may just mean I'm not processing what you're telling me to do. I don't get it, or I'm really tired. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are communicated, and that we can gain from other places where we can pick up on those things and then apply them at home. So definitely, you are looking over your child and seeing those things. Then talk to a therapist about it, and they'll be like, you know what? To help work with that, we can do A, B, and C. And so you may
I wish
diagnose
somebody would
those
tell
things.
me, because I get sad that my son throws fits because he can't get the words out he wants to say.
It's
but
hard.
He just points, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying, son, but I can't understand you. I'm really trying, and he just throws a fit, and it's just sad.
That's probably very frustrating for him, so that is very sad.
It's like I'm trying to understand him, but words just ain't coming out.
You keep trying.
Right.
You keep
That's
trying,
what
and
you
you work
do.
with different organizations, and you work with the teachers, and you work with everybody in your environment, and you think about, okay, so what happened before, what happened during, and what happened after, and you've got to start piecing those things together, because it could be a trigger like a man yelling might scare a child, and every time that happens, that
Usually
child is set
I
off.
realize it's because he's wanting something, and I'm not sure what he's wanting. That's what it is.
Are there any other questions about community
Sorry.
connections at all? No, that's good.
We got off a little bit.
Go sit down. Okay.
Do you know the date for the soccer? When it ends?
Yeah, it's on Thursdays, and it's on our website right now, and it's on this flyer.
You said that there was just a few more weeks left.
Well, I think we have 4 weeks. It's an 8-week season, so it's definitely like you could jump right in. They're meeting this week. I actually told Amanda, I said, I'm talking to this group, and hopefully there's families that would love to do soccer.
I
So
would love to.
It's
yeah,
so much fun.
you can go to Community Connections website, it's on the flyer, and just sign them up.
Here's the other.
Yes.
Like, it's hard because my schedule, my job. I'm a single parent.
Yeah.
And it's very hard.
Yeah.
And I don't get out of work till 6.
Mhm.
Just get out. One day I get out early.
Yeah.
And I chose to take it today to be able to come to the meeting. So
How old's your child?
he's 5.
Okay, so
He
Zan-
goes to Peace Plus. He's
So
actually
they're
in the
open till
classroom with
6.
them.
I say usually we try to do it after school because I'm not off work by 4 sometimes, and I have a sitter that sometimes will take because I have to have childcare after school. But Yeah, that's good feedback, and we'll do some things on Saturdays, and I
Yeah,
mean,
I saw that.
I don't, obviously this is not ideal either, but we do some things on weekends in Conway and or in other cities, and so we have families that'll drive in because they can do a tennis on Saturday or Sunday afternoon and would want to as well, but we run into, like when we do it too late, parents say, well, my kids are in bed at 7. I mean, my kid, we're still going at 7. I mean, like, but everybody's different, you know, and so, but that's good to try to keep in mind for doing later.
Did you say that the art program is available in the Russellville area?
Yes, we are just about to start art, and it'll be at Pediatrics Plus. So it's starting March 29th, so this week.
Great.
So
Oh, great.
in our heart, I mean, I want everything everywhere because we do flag football and tennis and music and art and martial arts and action year theater, but we try to look at ones we think will appeal to the most audience and then do it. I mean, we've had our mind on flag football for a while. Basketball is really cool. I mean, not every child's athletic, like, but those.
Kids get how to play that stuff, or they just kind of, because often my son wouldn't understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're at all varying levels. So, I mean, we have some kids, well, like soccer, for example. My son Alex has done soccer. He is far more interested in taking the cones off the ground and playing with his buddy, but still loves it, and it's physical activity now. And then we have some kids that are phenomenal that weren't that active 2 years ago and now can shoot 3-point shots. We have some kids, and it's just like, this is amazing, and you think they are really good little athletes, but, you know.
At first I said I hadn't, but they have sent these home from his school. He goes to Center Valley, and they have sent papers home with these activities.
Now you know what it is.
But like I was saying, like even activities that have school, we don't take him because we don't, you know,
Oh,
he's not gonna put his.
it is not a come out here, you're on your soccer field, let's go. They do skills and drills and exercise and warm up.
My son went to karate and they make them stand on little X's and Bentley did not.
Yeah.
The entire time for the first 2 times that he went. And when he stood on a little yellow X, everybody got excited and praised him for it. He only stayed there for a minute or 2, but that was, it doesn't
Progress.
matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Last year was the first time that I participated in it and I had the same thing. He's not gonna act like everybody else.
Yeah,
He's
that's
not
not
gonna
what
act like they expect from that. They don't have expectations. That's the point of this group.
Well, and I will say, and that's my own plug, is they're free, and our heart is like, you know, just like any kids, you know, usually for my other kiddos, I have to enroll in music or enroll in things, I'm like out $180 and they want to quit, and then I'm saying, no, stick through to something. You know, it's not a ton of skin in the game. Like, you can come and try it out, and if it is not great or it's not a good experience, you know, he can bow out, try something else.
It's like Dyer into basketball, and Dyer is probably, he has all kinds of athletic ability, but he doesn't want to do anything. When he played basketball and, you know, he'd shoot the ball, but when it was time to go to the other end of the court, he wasn't doing that, so he just came and sat in the bleachers until they got back. And I mean, nobody said
hilarious.
anything to him about it, and that's how he did the entire time.
What's really amazing is watch him this fall and then the fall after, because I've now had the honor of being around long enough that you see progression. I mean, kids get older, right? You know, they're better at, you know, functioning with day-to-day tasks year to year, and you have some kids I thought, I didn't even know you, I mean, they're all different. We have some kids that are very intellectually able and fine, and they really, I mean, we take, really that's why I want to have recreational leagues, because we run into, you know, higher functioning kids. I don't know if any of you have like higher functioning and Asperger's, and I know another, like, let's talk, this is gut honest, I don't know who's tuning in online, but you know, people will be like, well gosh, my son really, I don't want him just to be around a lot of kids that are far, you know, below his or her functioning levels. I mean, so I think as we grow, we'll get to where, I mean, Miracle League Baseball does it well, and I don't know how Field of Angels does it here.
Angels, yeah.
Right, so, you know, but
down
get
for
to
you.
get to the point where, you know, we try to group ability levels together because we want it to be inclusive, but we want it to be quality for kids that they really want to go out and compete, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to do it in the city or in the school. But it is accepting. Like, our goals are to be an encouraging, accepting environment. And we're not perfect, you know, we have volunteers that help, and not all volunteers are created equal, so you know, like I mean, and we work with tons of people. We have competent corporate businessmen and women to high school athletic teams to, we've had like the tech cheerleaders come out. I mean, lots of different people, but our goal is to make programs accessible and to give an opportunity for parents and families to connect.
One more question. You said a cooking program. that is intriguing to me.
Yes.
Are you thinking about doing that in the Russellville area?
In the Russellville. We did it in Russellville as a pilot. We did it at Pediatrics Plus. And we don't do everything at Peds Plus, but we are doing art there, and we did do cooking there because of the kitchen. And it was successful. We couldn't take a lot of kids at once. So we piloted it with 6. I don't know if anybody in here did the pilot. But, you know, that's great too. Because, I mean, it's kind of life skill. I mean, it's recreational, but then also...
It's fun and social.
Uh-huh.
Cooking is social.
Yes, to be able to do that. So looking at it for the fall.
That's great.
That's great. We definitely always have a great time.
Do you have anything like for activities with music?
You know, we have done music in Conway and Little Rock, and this is a great, perfect audience to plug. The way we start programs, like period, the end, the way we plan our budget, we do it, is when we find an individual who's passionate about an activity, and then we can help equip and make way. Everything we've started has been a mom or a grandfather or a therapist or a teacher or a coach that loves cheerleading or loves bowling or loves an activity and say, hey, have you ever thought about that? Because we have found almost any activity can be adapted to for our kids if you have understanding. And we have found the community to be wildly receptive. Like, we've not had anybody be like, no, we don't want your kids there. I mean, they're very accepting. So that being said, we would be very open to music. I don't know anyone like kind of within the music realm, but if anyone in here does and or thinks, I have your flag football coach for the fall, please let me know, because we take parent suggestions all the time. So we haven't had it in Russellville. We have had it in Conway and Little Rock. We don't have it this spring, but we would love to do that. That kind of varied. So I'll tell you, I mean, I'm getting way long. This will be my last thing, and you can find me after because I'm not every student, but we found music is very different. So, you know, we had kids that registered, and we have kids that they're really benefiting more from like kinder music. Just music can help you express yourselves. Music can show emotions. To kids that signed up and they're like, no, I'm very musically inclined, and they want to learn the guitar. So we've kind of, I mean, I'm speaking from Conway, we ended up finding an instructor, and he's amazing, and so he led the class, and so he took kids that wanted to really learn instruments and does lessons. He does drums, piano, guitar.
I'm just trying to find his thing.
Sure,
What his
yeah,
theme
try.
will be.
So we've tried music, but we haven't had it in Russellville. But if anyone knows, you know, resources all the time. I mean, really, we're a small organization. I mean, so there's not a lot of bureaucratic red tape. I'm very accessible. My cell phone is what's on the website and everywhere, and this is what I love to do. So anyway, okay.
We hope that you have a major turnout for your next event.
Thank
We hope that
Everybody
whoever's
come
watching or-
fishing. That'll be
yes.
fun. I just love to see everybody. And if you have questions, I mean, you can always reach out. And if you need anything, you can find me after.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
You said that you hope that you find his thing.
Yes.
I was like that with Noah too. But I read an amazing article once, and it said, be careful with your child with autism finding their thing and letting them stick with it, because they are so obsessive compulsive that when they find something, they want to stick with it because it's their comfort zone, and they found something that comforts them, and they never want to get out with it, and you'll never find what else they can do unless you push them. And so I was exactly like you. I was like, I want to find what he wants to do and what he's good at and let him thrive in that. And then when I read that article, it all came full circle to me. Like, he loves the Wiggles, but if I never let him watch Barney, he's never going to know if he loves it.
It's not just Tanner. Over and over and over again.
Yes, but if that makes sense to you, if he loves music, you know, open up a whole other world to him that he might want to try. Just make sure you're still giving him options to love or hate other things. So
He's
you can,
5, but
yes.
he looks like he's 8. He's big, and that's why
That's
I
what
was
I thought.
interested in soccer or anything with sports, because I'm thinking maybe like
Right.
the extra letting out energy. I don't
Yes.
know.
I'm Lori Page. I've worked for Pediatrics Plus a little over 8 years now. I started out as a substitute teacher working 2 to 3 days a week, and then eventually worked full-time as a lead teacher, and now I'm in the role as regional supervisor for all of our autism classrooms. And so I just want to tell y'all just kind of an overview of our classrooms, where we came from, and a little bit about what we do. So they all started because an OT at Feeds Plus had an idea about, what if we created this classroom for children with autism and figured out how we could help them thrive in a classroom setting. And so eventually her dream came true, and they said, okay, we're going to try this and let's see how it goes. So they opened the first classroom in Conway in 2011, and just saw great success. The kids really did thrive. They were progressing so much faster than they had in other classrooms, and it was just amazing. So we continued to open more classrooms at Peace Plus. In 2013, we opened our first Little Rock classroom, and then in 2015, we opened a second autism classroom in Conway. 2016, we opened the classroom here in Russellville, and then just this past August, we opened a second classroom in Little Rock. So just to give you a description, our classrooms are designed to provide children and families a foundation to begin remediating the core deficits of autism spectrum disorder. It's facilitated by a team of teachers and therapists. The children engage in a preschool classroom that addresses dynamic intelligence, functional play, and improved social engagement. So our classrooms are designed to empower families by providing support and tools to create a successful home environment for all members of the family. So our classrooms work the way as well as they do because the parents are involved and we're able to work as a team together. We use a collaborative approach with professionals and families, and our goal is to assist the children to reach developmentally appropriate milestones and ultimately thrive within an integrated classroom setting. So our goal when we have children in our classrooms is ultimately to transition them out of that classroom back into one of our more typical classrooms at Peace Plus. And so when they leave to go to kindergarten, they'll be set up to transition into a classroom there. So our structure in our classroom, it's set up with a very low stimuli. Our lights are dimmed. We don't have a lot on the walls that are distracting. So it's easier for them to engage and focus on what's going on. We have a structured curriculum, small group instruction for increased learning. So in some of our classrooms, we have small groups of 2 or 3 kids that we'll pull out and do some activities with. Sometimes the therapist will pull out a kid and maybe work with another therapist and have the 2 kids working on something together or interacting together. We have large group instruction for mimicking a typical classroom setting. So we have circle time and we have art and handwriting, all the typical things that you would see in a typical preschool classroom. Each child in our classrooms has their own individual schedule to help decrease anxiety. They know exactly what to expect each day. They're able to see on their visual schedule what comes next, and so that really helps for them to transition from one activity to the next and just makes the day go smoother. We provide a lot of visual supports to help them as well. And then our meals that we serve, a lot of our kids, I'm sure you're familiar with some picky eaters, right? Or maybe some eating issues. So we serve our meals family style, and we're able to work on some feeding goals at each meal that we have in the classroom.
Family style is?
Yes, so in the other classrooms, the food is served, everything's on the plate already and just set in front of the child. So family style, we have a container of beans and a container of carrots or whatever, it comes in containers, and so we can have the kids help us scoop out the food and put it on their plate. We can, if we have a kid that's really defensive, if something's on their plate that they don't like and it's overwhelming to them, we can just put a really small amount on their plate, and so we're able to work on those types of goals just in the normal classroom day. So our staff, we have 3 teachers in the classroom every day. We have a lead teacher and 2 assistant teachers. We have 8 kids in the class, and so they get lots of one-on-one attention. And then our occupational therapists and speech therapists are in the classroom at least 50% of the day as well. And so it's really beneficial for the kids. The staff consists of me, the supervisor. We have, like I said, 1 lead teacher and 2 assistant teachers, and then the speech pathologist and occupational therapist, who are all a part of the team.
What was the age group for the classroom?
It's typically 3 to 6 years old.
Thank you.
So our staff undergoes training to be a part of, of an autism classroom. We have training in relationship development, intervention, integrated listening systems, picture exchange communication, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in just a minute, SOS feeding. So again, that's working on those feeding goals, applied behavior analysis, and then safety care training for to prevent behaviors and know how to keep the kids from getting hurt, other people from getting hurt if they're, if there's some aggressive behavior, so those type of things. Our team of teachers and therapists meets twice a week after the kids have left. One meeting is to discuss the kiddos and problem solve any issues that have come up, plan for parent meetings, which we have every other month, and then any additional training can happen during that time. And so I will attend those meetings, the occupational therapist and speech therapist, and then the 3 teachers. So I go around to each location, and I try to spend a day every week in each classroom, so then at the end of that day I can meet with the team, and if they're struggling with anything, if there's anything we need to change in the classroom, we can talk through that and kind of problem solve together. And then they also meet another time during the week, and I'm not usually at those meetings, but they discuss curriculum and how they need to modify it for each kiddo to help them be successful. So I'm actually going to let Miss Chelsea and Miss Amanda talk a little bit and let them, you hear from their perspective what they do in the classroom.
I'm Chelsea. I'm the speech therapist in the autism classroom. So we work on various speech and language skills in the classroom and a lot on social interaction. And so we want our kids to have some form of communication, whether it be verbal or nonverbal. So a thing that we use a lot in the classroom, and Ms. Lori mentioned it, is the Picture Exchange Communication System, PECS for short. And I brought this little book because I wasn't sure who was familiar with it. But all of our kiddos currently use PECS in the classroom. So what it is, it's a picture system, and you can have pages and fill this book up, like hundreds of pictures. So they have, well, first, PECS is a very specific protocol. We've gone to training to learn how to use PECS. We train the teachers, so the teachers help us implement it within the classroom. And so it's really cool. It's consistent over the day.
Do you also train the parents on how to use it at home?
Yes.
Okay.
Once they get to a certain phase, the kids will take the book home and they use it too. Yes. So starting out, the kid just has one picture and they exchange it, just one picture. So this is balls. So if they want a ball, they can exchange just one picture. And a lot of parents are like, well, what cognitive level does a child need to be on to get this? There's no, you can teach any child how to use PECS. We have, some kids start off on PECS and parents can be skeptical. They're like, well, I want my kid to be verbal and use words. But PECS really facilitates verbal language. So we have a few kiddos who are verbal, but they still use PECS in the classroom sometimes as well. So it's just cool. But after they get to the single picture, then you can start making sentences down here on the sentence strip and rip it off. I want boss. I want boss. And then they can even start adding like adjectives. So I want green ball. And you can just add tons of this. It's a very cool system, but like I said, it's a very specific protocol to use it to be successful, so that's pretty awesome. Ms. Lori also talked about family style meals within the classroom, so each child actually uses PECS to request what they want in the meal. So I want beans, or our kiddos are on various levels, so one may just give the beans picture, and then one may say, I want beans, and so they request this, they use this to request. different things across the day in the classroom. And we also carry their books out with them, like to the sensory gym when Amanda and I pull them out. They can request that they want to swing in the sensory gym and that kind of thing. So that's really cool. Another thing that we work on is a lot of social engagement, social interaction with peers, appropriate play and things like that. So we treat about 80% of the day in the classroom to generalize those skills, support the kiddos with activities going on in the classroom. We pull out to teach new skills and just go to the gym and play, you know, do some therapy in the gym, different environments and all that.
So my name's Amanda, and I'm the occupational therapist in the ASD classroom. So a lot of the things that Nick went over and that Miss Lori went over, we pull into the classroom as an OT to help provide a more cohesive and consistent experience for our kids. So one of the things that as an OT we would pull in is a lot of that sensory processing. We do a lot of, I've taught like the teachers and Miss Chelsea and some of the other therapists that come in who might not know a lot about sensory, especially new therapists who haven't seen a lot of sensory. We learn about it in school, but until you really are able to see it and how it affects a child and the results that you see from that, then you see this is what sensory processing and that organization does. So I've brought in a lot of just information and support for the teachers, because I can't have hands on those children every single minute of all the day. So I've helped my teachers learn about proprioceptive input, which is input to your body through pressure, input to your joints through joint compressions. So this is what we get when we jump up and down. You know, we get impact at our ankles, our knees, our hips, sometimes even up into our shoulder girdle. Those are all things that help our body organize so we can feel where we are in space. So we bring that into the classroom. We also work on the vestibular system, which is, a lot of people mostly think about it as consisting of swinging and spinning, but some of our kids have trouble with that. We can't spin in a circle because we get too dizzy and we're going to fall down immediately. We can't turn around. So we help facilitate those. We do Ring Around the Rosie in the classroom with all of our peers. We hold hands. But we're facilitating a vestibular movement that's going to help decrease that avoidance and increase our tolerance to those things. So we bring those kind of things in. And along that same line, we also bring in sensory processing into functional activities. So say we have a fine motor activity that we're going to be doing in our centers, we're going to bring in the hop balls. And we're going to hop all the way across. And then we're going to do our fine motor activities. We're going to bring in things like compression tunnels to crawl through to get that input to our bodies. We're going to bring in tunnels to crawl through, bigger tunnels just for exploration of and finding a system. So we work on, you know, finding a process. We're going to start, we're going to go through the tunnel, we're going to put it on, we're going to go back. We're going to learn about weighting. We learn about all kinds of things when we're doing that. So it's things that they can generalize and that parents can take. I waited in line with my friends to go through the tunnel so I could put a picture on the board. That translates to waiting in line at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. I'm going to wait in line with my mom behind all these other friends till we can get to the front and ask for what we want. And we know we're going to get a turn, those kind of things.
I have a question for you about like the joint compression and the vestibular input. I mean, I remember doing that with my son. As they grow older, and you've got somebody who's a little, you know, doesn't want hands-on touch, I mean, is that still something that would help them at that point, or is it something?
Yeah, sure. A lot of times we need it for regulation, so we can't control, we have trouble regulating our body with emotions and the stimulation that is going on around us, any of the stimulants that are around us. So we do have trouble. So when we're younger, we might need more. And as we get older, a lot of times through giving them this pressure, they can learn to ask for it themselves. They can learn to self-soothe. So like I teach some of my kiddos we're going to hold our knees up against our chest and we're going to squeeze ourselves really, really tight, you know, that's a way to teach them, it's a strategy to teach them a technique that they can use later on. I'm not gonna have to give them squeezes. They're not gonna have to ask for squeezes to get that deep pressure. They can learn to provide it for themselves. That kind of thing. Yes?
You're saying something about doing the circles thing and getting busy. Well, my son, he'll sit there and spin in a circle, and then he'll end up either falling or turning into something. How would you let him know that's too much circles?
Well, and sometimes it's just simply you facilitating, you know how many times he's gone around.
Yeah.
You know, he can go around 10 times, and that 11th time, we're going to fall over. So helping him learn. And also, when you work on vestibular, we want to go, if we're going to go 10 times clockwise, we want to go 10 times counterclockwise. We want to balance our body, we want to balance that system. So it works the same. And also, it helps to, sometimes they make themselves fall because we need probe input. We need that pressure following vestibular input. So when we are spinning, we need big hugs afterwards. So, yeah, you did a great job. I'm going to give you big hugs, and then we're going to do it again. So they need that input to organize the spinning that they've gone through. They need the pressure to help organize how that's made their body feel and how it's affected them.
Like he'll spin, but he'll be playing with something, like he's used to spinning something or making something like flap with his other hand by holding it with his other hand. But yeah, it's like he doesn't really care to following into something. He just cares about whatever's in his hand, and he starts spinning it wherever he ends up. That's
Maybe encouraging him to then spin the other way before he falls.
Right,
Something like
right. Just like, yeah, now we're going to go the other way. We've gone this way. Let's go this way. And then give him hugs and just help him realize that we can go so many times in one way, and then we need to stop. And if you just keep, just repetition, and then he'll learn, we'll go this way this many times, then we'll go this way this many times. Yes, yeah. And then we're going to go find hugs. We'll go find hugs from somebody.
Talking about the spinning and what does that mean for kids?
I think my son thinks of it as like something that soothes him.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
It can be very soothing for children. Some children seek it out. Some children are very afraid of it, you know, and they're fearful of it. And that's something that we work on too, to get their system to where they can tolerate more. So we start it very, very slow. We want everyone to have a balanced system. So we look at it very holistically. We want them to, it's like some people can ride on roller coasters and some people can't. So people who can spin on the, what are those things called?
Tilt-a-whirl or
Yeah, something like, you know, those people, they can do it all day long. They have a really strong vestibular system. They can spin 24/7. It's not going to affect them. Others, you go around two times, you're all done. So, you know, we work on that in both ways, where I know you love to spin. We don't always like the pressure. We don't always like a more structured activity. All we want to do is spin, because that's what makes us happy. That's where we're comfortable. But we'll spin for a little bit. We'll do that. Then we're going to move on to something else. We might come back to spinning, because that is something that's a preferred activity. But we're going to move on to something else, and we're going to do another activity, and then we can come back to that. But we don't want them to just spin continually. We also don't want someone to avoid it completely. So we want to bring all of that. That's why we bring it into the classroom. We take them to the gym, because we want them to have a very well-rounded sensory processing system in their body. We don't want them to completely avoid things or completely just run towards this one thing and that's the only thing we can do.
Well, a big area.
Yeah, we want. Yeah.
We had a swing in our house for a while for my son, and it was something that was needed. It was soothing. We now have a mini trampoline in our house, and you know, I mean, that's input. You can get on there.
Yes.
I can get on there, anybody can get on there, and it's just it's a good sensation, good feeling, and it's something that you can have in your home that provides that as well.
I have a question for you about sensory overload.
Okay.
My son Noah seeks it out. He is someone that wants as much as he can get. He doesn't want to wear noise canceling headphones, but you can tell that he's going into overload, and he'll start stimming more than usual, to the point that he'll cancel everything out around him just to be able to stim. And he's the person that can go on a roller coaster, 7 times in a row and want more of it, or spin as many times as possible. How do I know for him that too much is too much, even when it's almost like that's his way of being in control, if that makes sense? Even though it is putting him in a sensory overload, that is putting him at a point that is making him have to stim and only be in his world. And that's how it's almost he's putting himself there on purpose. What do I need to do? Do I need to let him do that, have a little bit of control? Or should I pull back on the reins and be like, no, we need to stop now. We do need to put on some headphones, or we do need to wear our sunglasses. So I tried to force sunglasses and a hat and, some earbuds on him, and he's like, no, I'm fine, let's party. So, like, he loves it, but I'm like, and he's like this the whole time.
And every child's different. They are. Every kid's different. So when you start seeing that, we try not to let them go completely away from us and disengage. So we try to keep them engaged in the classroom as much as possible.
Okay.
So when we do see them, like we bring in things like we order compression vests. We see someone who's seeking a lot. We have a child that might run from wall to wall, and they're seeking input. They're crashing to everything. Some kids avoid everything. Oh, don't touch. But then you have those who will run into, bump every person. They bump the wall as they're walking down the hallway.
I happen to know who you're talking about.
But each child is different. So, yes, they're seeking that, but how can we seek it in a more appropriate manner? So that's what we try to do, is provide our kiddos with tools and strategies of, okay, I'm going to stim on my hands, but instead of stimming on my hands in front of my eyes, we're going to clap.
Okay.
Or we're going to pat the table, or we're going to do something more functional in the classroom that is going along with what we're working on, rather than just simply stimming and disengaging from everyone else. Because when they do go into that, they're just, you don't exist anymore. We're not there. We want them to engage with us. We want that form of communication. So, just like she was talking with the PECs, we work on communication all the time in the classroom. Gestures, sign language that we use, those are all forms of that increased communication that we're looking for.
So forcing that hat and sunglasses on, we're good to go with that. That's a good.
Well, I was just saying too, if it's becoming where he is
Maybe remove yourself
consistently overstimulated by that, then putting that, let's wear a hat, let's wear sunglasses every once in a while. We don't have to do it every single time, but let's do it, say every other time we go out.
Right.
And then, or every third time you go out. Start out slow, and then just keep building on it, and soon he'll be like, Mom, where's my hat and sunglasses?
Okay.
I need to put my hat on.
Okay.
We're going outside.
Okay.
So just little steps. It could take a long time. One of the things we work on in the classroom is sensory feeding. We work on smelling, playing. We play with our food a lot. We model. We model eating. We model licking a piece of fruit. Describing it. Oh, it's pineapple. It's sweet. It's just describing. It's yellow. The colors, everything about it. It's cut into a square today. We might cut it in different shapes. On different days. Describing everything we can about it to get them interested. If they'll touch it, that's great. In 6 months from now, they might eat a bite. And we've had a great success. We've added one more piece of food to the foods that we'll eat, when a lot of times our foods are very, very, very limited. So that's a great success when we can get one extra food in there.
It is 7:53, and so our meeting goes till 8. If you're available, we'll ask you questions afterwards. Something that I'm going to throw out there to Peds Plus and Community Connections, what about teaching parents and kids classes on how to decrease anxiety? Just maybe a yoga class, something like that, bringing that element in where it's parents and the child together, because sometimes, we don't have, I guess, that environment where we can, bring them down, help them calm down, and teaching skills to deal with anxiety. The more I think about autism, the more I think about is they live in a constant state of anxiety with the environments, with the changes, with what they're expected, with social norms, and all that kind of stuff. And if we can teach them how to come down from the point of a meltdown or the point of overstimulation, reconnecting and doing something with the parent in that moment, that the parent is also learning how to handle themselves when the child is anxious, and that throwing that out there. Love to see it happen.
That's another piece of our classrooms is we have parent education trainings once a quarter. In addition to meeting with the parents. So once a quarter, you have an opportunity for parents to come in, and that's really important.
Is that only for your autism classrooms? Up to 6?
That's what it was created for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we're just saying
looking at
support
expanding.
You.
Yes.
Yeah. You just tell us when we're allowed to come.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, I was gonna say, greens and blues are always usually more calming colors.
Not neon green or neon blue.
Right. Just pale blues, paler green, even like deep dark blues can be really calming. But our kids in our classroom, we have several of them that we know what their favorite colors are. They like red, and they love yellow, and they love, a lot of them like the bright colors because they are bright and they are vibrant to them. I've never really seen anything on research on avoiding certain colors, but for bedrooms, I would suggest calming colors, or, not maybe neon colors in the bedrooms or something like that they wake up to, that's much more stimulating, but something that's a little bit more subdued for like bedrooms and things of where we wake up and that kind of thing. But did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. They stumped me. I wasn't sure. I didn't know any research that said yes or no, but specifically what we saw.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go off Facebook Live, we've got a bunch of events in April. We've got the Bistro, Path Bistro, Family Bistro. That is April 20th. Party at the Park, or go for that. April 28th, AMOM will have a booth there. Come out and support us. Come out to Party at the Park. Bring your kids. It's free. Thank you. Axe Junior is April 17th. And our next monthly meeting for a meeting of minds is April 24th, Tuesday. One more thing is Partners for Inclusive Communities they were our guest in February. They've reached out to us, and they have invited us to participate in a community discussion. I think I ran off and forgot the flyer at home, but I'll put that on our AMOM page. There's 2 different times. You can go April 5th, which is a Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m., or you can go April 10th, 2 to 4 p.m., that's a Tuesday. And even if your kids are young, getting involved with something like community, or like Partners for Inclusive Communities, this is where your future lies with your child, and getting connected with those things and learning what they know and giving input from, that's what they want from us, is our opinions on things, how we can make the community more inclusive for all people with autism, people of all disabilities and walks. So I'll put that on the Facebook page, and get plugged into those things. Reach out, find new organizations. Tell us about them if you find something great. We're all about sharing resources, and We want to thank Community Connections. We want to thank Pediatrics Plus, great organizations. Like we said, 50% of us have had experiences with them, and Allie's reaching out, and she's going to be working with them as well. Get connected. They're great programs.
Yes, thank y'all so much for
thank
coming.
you very much
We
for being here
appreciate
today.
all the resources, all the support. Hopefully y'all will have a big turnout next time y'all get together, and hopefully y'all will have some new referrals coming
Yep.
in. So
We
we're sure
hope
y'all
so.
can help some more people.
Yep. All right. Have a great
Yep.
night.
Thank
If
y'all
they've
for
got
coming
time,
in.
you can ask them some questions, but thank you.